Emma, welcome to After Hours. How are you today?
I'm really good, thank you, Jimmy. I'm really good. And just before we jumped on, I
Yeah.
was thinking, how nice because it's 5 o'clock. It's dark. It's wintry. It's Friday, and I was thinking, how nice to just be like, oh, I'm really looking forward to a chat over a cup of tea,
Yeah.
rather than thinking, oh God, how long is this going to take? When's it going to be finished? And then I can open my bottle of wine in the
Or
fridge.
get down the pub. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
yeah,
Friday night we're recording
yeah,
this, so
yeah,
it's
exactly.
yeah. I mean, I am going out tonight. Actually, it's a friend of mine who's sober. She was actually episode one of the podcast. Jo, really good friend, known her for since the beginning. And it was her birthday a couple of weeks ago, so we're just going to go out and have a little pizza dinner tonight and just catch
Yeah.
up. So I am going out, but it'll be completely like sober night, a bit of pizza, some soft drinks. She'll maybe have a Heineken Zero, and then home before 10 o'clock or so.
Yeah, yeah,
So
lovely.
yeah,
Yeah, we're going out tonight as well. One of my husband's favourite pop-ups is it going to be in sort of a place not too far away. So yeah, we'll go there. I've just got one child because the other one's away.
yeah,
Um, yeah, pop out, have a bite to
yeah,
eat. I'll probably drive home. Don't have a problem with that, and I'll have a few drinks when I get back because
yeah.
I love an alcohol-free drink.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
your thing,
yeah,
isn't it? So
yeah,
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 we'll
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
get into that. Emma, do you know what? It's so good to kind of finally chat to you because, like we were saying off air, I had a look online on our Instagram, and it was September 2020 when we started following each other, and
Yeah.
I think you said when we were off air, I was 28 days when I messaged you. So I think I followed you. You followed me back, and then did I message you, or how did the interaction go?
Yeah, I had a little look. So you'd followed me,
Yeah,
and I'd messaged you to say thanks for the follow, which has
yeah,
now made me go, oh God, I just don't do that anymore when people do, and I should.
yeah,
So actually, that's a really good reminder. Um, and I must have had a little look at your account, seeing that you just posted about 28 days. So I said,
yeah.
oh, well done on that. And you came back and said, oh, well done on 5 years. And I was like, oh, I'm not 5 years yet. And yeah, which means that you've had your 5 years
I had my 5 years,
and I've had my 10
and
now.
you've had
So
your 10 years, and here
yeah,
we are,
yeah.
still doing it, still keeping it
I
strong
know.
and real. But do you know what? It gave me a bit of goosebumps when you were telling me earlier about that, because thinking back to when I was 28 days, I knew that this time it was the time, but obviously I was still struggling. I was still going to meetings daily, and I just was like, like still having those urges to drink, but just being this time was different. Do you know what I mean? I made sure that I was just doing everything and anything because the other alternative was just not even thinkable. And yeah, it's just nice to kind of have that little memory flash up from then. So yeah, 28 days. I mean, I don't know what my day count is today, but it's probably like 1,900 and something because
Oh,
I'm getting
amazing.
close to 2,000. So yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's brilliant. And at the moment, my day count is a sore subject because I went and missed my 10-year anniversary. I completely got the dates muddled, even though my anniversary is the same. It's the 9th. It's the same date as my birthday. So I
Yeah.
don't know why I got it in my head that it was the 15th, a week later. I
Mm.
think because I gave up in 2015. Um, Edit there that I didn't give up anything. I think people can get a little bit prickly, doesn't it? It's just yeah. I
Yeah.
stopped
No,
drinking
no.
and yeah, completely mucked up on my dates. And everyone had been saying, "Oh, well done, congratulations." I was like, "Oh, thanks. It's
It's
next
next week.
weekend."
And so what was your actual date of the 10 years? When was that? What's your sober date?
So the 9th of um, the 9th of November. Yeah,
November, so just
yeah.
well, a week and a bit
So was
ago
that last
then.
Saturday? Was that last Saturday or last Sunday?
It was a week past, let me just check here. November, the 9th of November. A week past, no, it'll be 2 weeks past on this Sunday coming. So yeah, it was the Sunday 2 weeks ago, nearly.
Yeah.
And well, congratulations on 10
Thank
years.
you.
Emma. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's the thing when I remember when I started and I was probably just absolutely in awe of your nearly 5 years and just thinking, oh my God, that's so unattainable. And but you know what? Time just flies by, and if you're doing the work and you're sticking with it, it's like before you know it, 5 years have gone past, and like you,
Yeah.
10 years have gone past. It's
But
crazy.
when before you stop, one day is unattainable.
Oh
You know,
God, absolutely. Like an
so
hour's
but
unattainable.
yeah,
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 or like getting to like getting to a week or something. And I think this time of year always feels really thresholdy, and I
yeah.
always go back to sort of have that regression back to however many years it's been. And yeah, I find it quite hard actually. It's always a bit bumpy, and I'm
Hmm.
hoping that now I've got like a solid wedge of time,
Hmm.
that it will start to feel easier,
Okay.
because sometimes it feels really still uncomfortable to sort of think about that time previously. It's a real sliding doors moment
Hmm.
where you make the choice to choose yourself.
Yeah.
And at the time it's really hard because you are where you are and you're stepping through a doorway and you don't know what's ahead of you.
Yeah.
And from my perspective, it had reached a point where I was kind of like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know what's ahead of me. I was really frightened, really scared. What were people going to think?
Mhm.
How was I going to approach it? And actually it had reached a point where I felt that was my only choice.
Yeah.
Like the tipping point was there, that the easier thing was to go through that door, even
Yeah.
though it was really, really scary. And I think
So
everyone who
scary.
takes that first step is so brave.
They're
And
heroic.
once you've taken that first step, you just got to keep on walking,
Yeah. Yeah.
and get through it. Yeah.
Well, let's go back. When did you like? How was your childhood, Emma, growing up, and when did you have your first drink?
Oh, so I had my first drink really, really young, like like preschool. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I know. And this just sounds so bad for my parents, but like it was the 70s,
Yeah.
and I think
I mean, are we talking like a sip, or are we
and I used to
talking?
have like a little kind of glass, like a little kind of sherry glass
Yeah. Yeah.
size
Yeah. Yeah.
of
Yeah.
watered down wine with my Sunday dinner.
Wow.
I remember as like a primary school child. Again, this is in the 70s. My parents had these really awful kind of metal goblets, like really gothic-y, and
Yeah.
they'd put either cider or pomaine in them, and we'd have those if we were having roast pork. Um, yeah, so like alcohol was really interwoven into my childhood. My parents brewed their own wine and their own beer.
Hmm.
So I would sit having my cornflakes, Weetabix, whatever, first thing in the morning, surrounded by demi-johns or huge, great big
Yeah.
vats of alcohol fermenting away. I would help them with the bottling process. Yeah,
But it was a
so like,
different era, wasn't it, Emma? It was like, I mean, I
yeah,
remember my dad did do a little bit of homebrew in the cupboard when I was, like, I mean, it was before he left, so I was under six, when he was doing that. And
mm,
there was just the smell of hops around the house and things like that. And then I was talking to someone the other day, and he was talking about how he used to get a little bit of whiskey dipped on, his dummy dipped in a bit of whiskey for teething.
yeah,
And I seem to remember my parents talking about that. I need to remember and ask them about it again, because I think that was a
yeah,
thing that they did to kind of
yes.
put you to sleep, or whatever, or take the pain away. I don't know. It's, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like my dad said recently that he used to dip my dummy in gin
Hmm.
when I was teething. I was just a bit like, I mean, times have changed
Yeah.
massively. Um, so yeah, every Sunday when I'd come back from Sunday school, my mum would make me an eggnog, which was milk, a raw egg, and a bit of sherry that she'd whack in the blender. So I'd have that, especially in the winter.
Hmm.
Um, So yeah, alcohol was like a really
Yeah.
normal thing. And my parents just kind of had this attitude of like, don't make it this sort of cloak and dagger thing.
Yeah.
And then, mid 80s, everyone when you're like sort of 14, 15, you're all going to the pub and you don't even need a pretend ID. It's just you sit around the corner and
As long as you're not making any trouble and you're sitting there
yeah,
quietly with your
yeah,
little drink or whatever, and
with your
yeah,
drink and your crisps and
yeah,
and that was that was just us going rather than being with parents. Previously, it'd be going to the pub like it was normal. It wasn't like
yeah,
a weird thing.
yeah, yeah.
Um
Sorry,
and
Emma, I just need
yeah,
to. Sorry, I need to just go and check something. Hold on. Sorry,
yeah,
two
no
seconds.
worries. No worries.
God, so sorry. That was the
No
door.
worries. I'm good.
All good. Hope I haven't put you off there. Uh, so yeah, we were just down at the pub, and then you were saying about your parents, I think.
Yeah, so what was I saying? Da, 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 da.
So like underage drinking in the pub, and then
Yes, I mean it was no big deal back then, was it?
yeah.
So everyone was there. Your
But
friends were there.
how were
You
your
put
drinking
your
habits in the pub? Were you like just having a few, or were you and your
yeah at
friends
that
kind of
age.
yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
at that age I was just having a few. I'm trying to think. I think I'd have like a shandy with lime in it.
Hmm.
And I'd probably play a bit of pool and have some crisps, and everyone else would kind of be sort of similar.
Yeah. Being
And
sensible with it.
then
Yeah.
yeah, and then what I think when I started to notice the difference was when we all started having sort of house parties.
Hmm.
So we never had them at my house because my parents didn't drink spirits, so we'd always go to other people's who had like the cabinet that they could then fill up with water. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Standard,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I kind of had back then quite a take it or leave it attitude to it, and
Right.
people who, well, because it was kind of normal, it was no big
You
deal,
were
whereas
used to
everyone
it.
else,
Wasn't this forbidden fruit anymore? Yeah,
yeah,
because you were
yeah,
allowed to do it in certain circumstances. So yeah, why would you
yeah,
go hell for leather? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so whereas other people were kind of like, oh, I'm going to have it all, like kids
Yeah.
in sweet shops, which we are. Um, and so I've been like, oh, okay, that's quite curious. And then by the time I was in sixth form, I'd kind of graduated to neat spirits, which sounds more hardcore than it was. It was just simply that I was at that point going to quite a lot of boat parties on the Thames. That was like the thing that my peers were doing.
Hmm.
And the toilets were really minging. So it was like, well, I'll just drink neat gin rather than with the tonic. And plus, it's a bit cheaper and I can sneak it on. Um,
Do you know
so,
what?
yeah,
That's actually really sensible because, like, if you're drinking pint after pint after pint, then you need to go to the loo like every 20 minutes or
yeah,
so. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. So I'd say I was like quite a savvy drinker.
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, so on the face of it, it all seemed fine. Then I went off to university,
Hmm.
and I went to Newcastle, which is kind of drinking mecca, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I feel like I learned how to drink in Newcastle,
Yeah.
and my my tolerance or my capacity increased, but I think it was just at a rate of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing about it was, I think, more it was a response. It was a response to feeling homesick.
Mm-hmm.
I have this really clear core memory of a Friday night being in my hall of residence, all set to do my essay and have everything squared away, and feeling like, I was playing at being this like model student,
Yeah.
and looking out of the window. And where I was in halls of residence, it was based on a Swedish open prison. So from each of your cells, you could see all the others in your block. And as I looked out the window, I could see all the lights were off. It was sort of 7:30, and this really mean Emma voice said, "You sad so and so." Literally, everyone else is out having fun,
Yeah.
having a great time, socialising, and you're in on your own doing your essay. And like
Yeah.
I kind of like, to sort of, you know respond to that kind of like nasty mean girl. I was like, right, I'll show you. So kind of, changed trajectory
Yeah.
slightly. So yeah, when I was at university, Newcastle, pound a pint night, triples for a quid. You could go out, get absolutely hammered, have kebab and chips. Actually, yeah, pita bread and chips and a taxi home, all for a fiver.
Yeah.
So you weren't breaking the bank.
Yeah.
Everyone else was doing the same thing. You were having a jolly old time. So I guess when I was at uni, it was kind of mainly sort of binge drinking on
Mm-hmm.
student nights or at the weekend and stuff. But I was on quite a limited budget, so I was sort of really, really carefully budgeting. And I sort of thought these are going to be the best days of my life. This is it. This is
This
the
is it.
time
Yeah, yeah,
to,
yeah. Before you
yeah,
settle down and get sensible, this is you're
yeah,
meant to
get a
be cutting
job
loose.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So lap it up. So I did, and then I graduated, and then I moved back to London.
Mm-hmm. What had you
And
done at university, Emma?
I did classical studies,
Oh,
so
right.
I was all about classical literature, Greek medicine, Greek and Roman
Yeah,
heroes and myths and architecture. I loved it. It
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
absolutely brilliant, and brilliant course. The Greek and the Latin, not so keen on, and another, more really, really cool memories of every morning at 9. Probably not every morning. Um, Being very cold, hungover in a lecture theatre
Yeah.
on ancient Greek.
Oh, I mean,
With
yeah.
like nursing a coffee, wearing one of those big puffer jackets, and necking Pro Plus tablets. Do you remember
I
those?
remember Pro Plus. Yeah, yeah. Just caffeine pills. I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's now changed to like Monster drinks and Red Bull and all
yeah,
that, but back then it was just pop a couple of Pro
yeah,
Plus and yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, happy days. So after that, graduated, moved to London, and initially really kind of struggled to get a job because hello, classical
I was going to ask,
classical
I was going to
studies.
say, like, what do you go into doing? I mean, apart from being a classical studies lecturer, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
well,
what?
no, you don't. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you're not specialised enough.
yeah.
So initially, I started working in retail. I worked in Harrods,
Okay.
and then I got a job working in media sales,
Mm,
which is kind of, you start off selling classified ads in publishing, and it wasn't my dream job, but I was suddenly working with loads of people
hmm,
my age,
hmm,
and
hmm.
it was really, really fun.
Yeah.
And the notion of, oh, you won't be partying once you get a job, suddenly completely changed
And I
because
have to say,
yeah,
not in a sales job either, because sales job is very well, it's money orientated, so it's always like there's a very kind of it's a very egocentric job as well because I've done a lot of sales where
yeah,
everyone else is like kind of there's this competition and there's a camaraderie, but there's a competition in sales, and it's I don't know if your place was ring the bell when you got a sale and all that, and it was just And
Oh
so
yeah.
came with those sales jobs was very hedonistic, let's show off how much money we've made this month and go out and buy everyone drinks and all of that kind of stuff that went with it. So it was work
Yeah.
hard, play hard mentality when I worked in sales.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, hugely so. It wasn't initially. So the
Hmm.
company that I worked for to begin with wasn't initially like that, which I think is probably quite good because it sort of eased me in gently. Um, but yeah, I did work in places which retrospectively, like I cannot watch The Office because it's just too close to the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
bone.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, oh my god,
Cringe
David
all the
Brent.
way. I
Yeah,
know what you
yeah,
mean.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Horrendous.
yeah.
But also, you get to work in really vibrant, not just work environments, but also really vibrant industries,
Hmm.
which are really, really good fun.
Hmm.
Like you say, it's work hard, play hard, and this was the '90s, so really it was more like work hard, having meetings down the pub. So a
Yeah.
lot, a lot of. So here's the thing, like my drinking in my 20s
Hmm.
was way more than my drinking in my late 30s 40s when I
Hmm.
decided to call time on it, because in my 20s it was just all the time, like literally
Yeah.
you go out with your work colleagues, or you might go out for a work do, or for a client thing. You'd come in the next day sort of pretty half cut, hungover, clutching a coffee,
Hmm.
trying to force down a croissant, and by 11:30 you'd have already been through your Rolodex of who can I take out for a lunch meeting.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
find anyone for a lunch meeting. You'd say, how about a team meeting? And so team meetings down our local pub sort of would start off, again, this is the 90s. So by the 90s, I was drinking white wine spritzer if I was feeling kind of sophisticated.
Hmm. Hmm.
A pint of Premier. Oh my God, I loved a pint of Premier. Do you remember there was the ads with Mel Sykes drinking it? It was a real kind of 90s
I remember with
thing.
Premiere. Was it? I mean,
Carling Premier, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I do because it
Yeah.
was around the same time as what's her name was doing the Boddingtons advert. It wasn't Mel Sykes. Who was
Yes.
the other one? And
I
there'll
can't
be people
remember, but
screaming at the
yes.
podcast right now. But it was around the same time, and there was the Carlin premiere. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. No, I do remember
yeah.
those as well. And it was like, I mean, I know we still get boozy adverts on TV, but not quite as many. Well, I don't really watch TV. But yeah, I think there is still the adverts, but back then it was just like this is what you do. It was like lad, 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 ladettes,
Yeah,
ladettes. Drink a
yeah.
pint if you're a bird, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah, well, it was glamorous, wasn't it?
yeah,
And it was being empowered, and it was like you were kind of showing that you could keep up with the guys.
which
You
is
know,
massively dangerous. Like I've said this before, and I don't want to appear as being sexist, which I'm not, but women are generally like smaller build than guys, and so
yeah,
they
yeah,
shouldn't be drinking as much. Well, no one should be drinking anyway, but that by the by, you shouldn't be keeping up with the guys pint for pint. Okay, you can, but it's a lot worse for you by
Well,
doing
this is
that.
the time. This is the decade of size zero. So we were all a
Yeah,
lot slimmer. We kind of drank our calories rather than ate them.
yeah, yeah.
You know. So yeah, so it'd be. It was kind of like you'd be drinking pints because it was, yeah, I can keep up with you guys. And there were women in ads who were doing this, who were gorgeous, who made it glamorous. And we didn't have the internet back then, so literally your kind of where you got your information from, what was cool, what was stylish, was either in magazines
Hmm.
or billboards, and
Hmm.
those gals were everywhere, or yeah, or it was
TV
almost a
because you
film.
had
Yeah,
you had Chris Evans on TFI Friday, which
yeah,
I think
big breakfast.
the Big Breakfast. You had the
Yeah.
Girly Show. You had the Word. But I think someone was telling me that and I vaguely remember this, but on TFI, he got Posh Spice Victoria Beckham to come in just after she gave birth to Brooklyn, like maybe a week later, and
I
they
wanted to
weighed
wet
her.
her. I know it's
way tough.
disgusting, isn't it?
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just like, but that was what was going on in the 90s because no one was saying red flags, this is wrong what you're doing because everyone was just kind of doing it. Do you know what I mean? And I know
yeah,
that's not an
yeah,
excuse, but it was kind of like, well, on the Big Breakfast, if they're having, they probably didn't drink in the mornings, but there was always things going on where
they
they were.
probably did.
They probably did, yeah. And it was like, but I think the TFI Friday was on at 6 o'clock, so I was sitting having my tea, probably waiting to go out with my mates, and they're all in a bar doing their thing, and it was just like, and Sarah Cox, Zoe Ball, I think Zoe Ball's in recovery, I think Chris Evans is in recovery. A lot of those old rock stars and whatnot. Most of them are in recovery. And I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but the Stone Roses, massive fan of the Stone Roses, Gary Mountfield, they call him Manny, he was the bass player. He died
So
yesterday at
63.
63.
Oh,
And
63. So young,
yeah,
isn't it?
and I
Yeah.
don't know that it hasn't been released yet, but I think they'll probably find something that it was, maybe drug or alcohol related. I don't know if he was sober or whatever, but he was due to come over to the Isle of Man. Like I don't know if I was going to go and see him, but it was talking about his old, heydays and all that. He was doing like a tour of chats, and I'd seen it come up on Facebook or something last week, and then we got the news yesterday that it passed.
I
So
mean,
sad.
even if it's not directly related, or it's not even in the thing, like at some point, lifestyle choices are gonna, they
Catch
are
up.
gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, they are gonna catch up and impact, aren't they? Yeah.
I mean, he
So
did look a lot
yeah.
older than his 63 years. He looked like he'd
Mm.
lived the life. And as you say, he may have been sober or calmed it down for the past 5, 10 years. But, what had he done
Well,
before then that's caught up?
there's still a huge bet deficit in your bank
Yeah,
account, isn't there? Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like, back in the 90s, vodka Red Bull,
Oh,
that was a massive thing as well. And,
so easy to
so
drink.
unhealthy.
It's
So
so
unhealthy.
unhealthy,
Yeah.
so easy to drink. I remember the tunnel in Glasgow, which I would be going there from like mid to late 90s, like underage, and I think they were doing vodka Red Bulls for like £1 a shot or whatever, not a shot, but like a drink in a
Yeah.
mix, and it
Yeah.
obviously wasn't like the vodka was probably watered down or whatever, but we were just drinking them like they were water,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like. But the Red Bull was like making our hearts kind of,
Oh, God, well, you feel it like literally about
yeah,
to come out of your
absolutely.
chest.
But
Yeah. I
then
don't
we'd
know why
be
I'm
then we'd
laughing.
be
It's
throwing other
terrifying.
things into the mix as
Yeah.
well, which wasn't ideal. But yeah, it was a crazy time, And don't get me wrong, I don't have any regrets. I don't, kind of think, well, if I would to live my life again, I wouldn't do all that. I would do it all again, But I wish that I'd maybe got to where I am now sooner, because I did have a lot of emotional upset with friends, family, and that towards the end, and that's what I wish I kind of hadn't done.
Well, I think like back at that time, like I had a lot of fun. It was my weekends were kind of for recovering,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
from the week.
In the week, yeah.
Um, and at that point, I was drinking most days,
Oh,
but not in a kind of thinking that there was any issue with it. I don't think we had a lot of education around alcohol consumption or alcohol harm. I have a feeling that the guidelines were higher
hmm
back then
hmm
as well. And I think we just sort of would never really count them up, but we just kind of have a bit of a giggle that we'd maybe had a few you know, people's quota that week or whatever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's interesting because that was the time where cigarettes were really getting a kick in, and I was trying desperately to quit
hmm
smoking, and I'd keep trying, and I'd get maybe a couple of days, get to the weekend, fail again, because this is all pre-ban, and it, I had so many goes at trying to quit smoking because, it's not good for you. It cost me a load of money. There are now starting to be health warnings on every packet. It was very,
Yeah.
very visible what the consequences were.
hmm
But I was addicted to nicotine.
And you were
Uh,
drinking as well, and they go hand in hand,
yeah, of course they
That's
do,
the
and everyone
thing.
else
Like, you
does.
could probably
Yeah.
quit for like a day, and then as soon as you've got a glass of wine or a pint in your
Mm.
hand, it was like, and then someone would go and you see, because you could smoke in pubs as well. So it was like
Yeah.
heaven. It was like you see someone sparking up and it's like, oh, go and give us one of them. And then before you know it,
Yeah.
you're getting 16 Lamberts out of the machine because they don't obviously put 20 in the machine. I don't know, for whatever reason. It was like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but also I think now they're like nearing 20 quid, aren't they?
Oh God, yeah, yeah. I mean,
You
I
know,
gave up many moons
yeah,
ago, but yeah, I think it's the best part
yeah.
of 20 quid for 20
Like,
now.
who
It
can afford to smoke? I'm like,
was two
gosh.
pounds
So,
fifty for 20 when I started. Two
yeah,
pounds fifty
I
to now.
remember, yeah, I remember saying to myself, when they get to £5, I'm gonna for a packet of 20, I'm gonna
Hmm.
quit. I didn't,
No.
but and I'd read the Alan Carr smoking book, and I'd done
Hmm.
all this stuff. It didn't work. And actually, the reason for mentioning it is because all of those failed attempts really fed into when I came to stop drinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when that point came, I knew I only had one shot in my bow. Like, I'd been through that with smoking, and I
Hmm.
knew how once I'd kind of sparked up, it was then a few more packets, and then it was like, oh, what's the point of trying again? And then you'd like get all your enthusiasm and courage and determination and strength to give it another go. And over time, you just feel so ground down by it that, you've failed yet again.
Hmm.
That when it came, years later to quitting alcohol, I was just like, I've got one chance at this. I've got one chance because it's going to take so much to haul this train
Hmm.
on the tracks because I felt like the train had derailed ages ago.
Yeah.
It takes so much to get me onto this direction. I don't know. I've got strength to do it twice
Hmm.
or more. Like I can just give it everything on one go.
Hmm.
So yeah. So back in the 90s, I was literally living my best life. I remember being in LA and they just brought in the smoking ban, and I got told very politely by someone in the bar, you're not allowed to smoke. So I was like, oh, I've got to be outside. So very belligerent. I'll be like, oh, well, I'll have my cigarette out the window and I'll have my beer in the club. There we go. Going from side to side so I can still have both. It was like,
Yeah.
that's not quite how we're doing it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
So what
fair
was
enough.
the rule? You'd have to go outside, but was there like a beer garden? Because obviously in the UK when the ban came in, beer gardens just like blew up out of nowhere. I'm sure there
Yeah.
was beer gardens before, but suddenly it was where everyone was, and then you had canopies and heaters and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Well, it's in LA. It was slightly warmer, but
yeah,
yeah,
of
it was
course.
kind of like nice little bougie roped off areas,
Okay,
and
okay,
actually, it was kind of quite nice because it was
yeah,
just like having a fag break at work, right? Just
yeah,
like everyone's like, oh, we're all going. Yeah, one person stay and look after the drinks, and off we'd all go, and
yeah,
oh, we'll get around in on the way back. So we just kind of incorporated it.
yeah.
Um, so after I'd sort of so yeah, that was kind of like my sort of work life, and then I met my partner, who's now my husband. We've
Mm.
been together 20 years, and I mention that because half of my time of our relationship has now been as a
Well,
non-drinking partner, and him
well,
as a drinker.
anytime now
Yeah,
you will be with him longer sober than you were
yeah,
drinking. So
yeah,
that's, you're on, yeah, that time is done. That was 10 years. Now you're 10 years plus with him as
yeah,
sober Emma. Yeah, that's
yeah. I think
amazing.
he's he's got the memo. It's not changing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but when so I met him and. He at that point was in the forces,
yeah,
so alcohol was, it's like part of the job, isn't it?
absolutely.
And it was like, oh, it's really cheap on the base as well.
Oh,
So yeah, like just gone from having been like, oh, we're always out putting stuff on expenses and social and work events, client events, to now we can just go to the base bar. Brilliant.
yeah.
Um, and then I had my children, and I do have a little theory that when you're pregnant and you're not drinking, and you've got
Hmm.
this glow, that maybe it's not just a pregnancy glow, maybe it's a not drinking alcohol glow. But
Yeah.
I don't have any scientific evidence to back that up. It's just my kind of like
No, I mean, I think you're
conjecture on it.
like
It's
every single lady that's been on the podcast that's had children has been sober for their pregnancy, and it's
mm,
madness because what you can, and some like obviously really bad, have managed to go through withdrawal and whatever, stop for those 9 months and then go straight back to it, and it's like, but you know that this thing that you're putting into your body will harm your baby, so you stop for that, but then you just go straight back to harming yourself, and it's like,
Yeah.
where do we draw the
So
line? Why is it? Why does the medical world say you really shouldn't drink when you're pregnant because that'll harm your baby? How is it going to harm your baby more than harming you? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like we say it's going to harm your baby, but you're fine. Of course, it's
yeah,
harming
well,
you.
I mean, so here's the thing. I had my second child at home, had a home birth,
Hmm.
and in the fridge I had a bottle of champagne and a prawn sandwich ready for when I'd had my baby, so that I could have prawn sandwich because you're not allowed to eat prawns.
Oh, right. I didn't
And
know that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and a bottle of fizz. And like I had my baby at home, natural childbirth,
yeah,
had midwives there, had my baby, and like about an hour later, I was like, and it was first thing in the morning. It's like, so can I have a glass of champagne now? They're like, absolutely, of course you can. So there you go. There's a great big tick. It's okay.
yeah,
So like I think when and we've all done it at some point in the dark of night when no one's around. Am I an alcoholic? Pop that into Google.
mm,
And the things that it comes up with, do you drink in the morning? And I would go, no, I never drank in the morning. But actually, yes, I did. Like, if I was at a wedding, I'd
hmm,
think nothing of having a glass of champagne first thing in the morning or before. Oh, yeah, I'll have a Bloody Mary.
hmm,
Great.
hmm.
Or, oh, we're
Airport.
going on holiday, have a pint, whatever time it is at the airport,
Yeah,
and then one on the flight. Like, I'm a
yeah,
really nervous flyer. Now, the thought of having something intoxicating is just like, why would you do that? Because if something went wrong, you sort of want to be alert, right?
yeah.
Not sort of
Not
all
sozzled off your
frazzing.
brain, yeah. But
Yeah,
why do
yeah,
we? Why do like I mean, I was definitely a morning drinker towards the end. I would wake up and the first thing I'd do was, have I got any vodka left or whatever's in the house, and I'm drinking that. I was
yeah.
terrible at the end. But like people look down upon someone that's drinking in the morning. And of course, because it's a bad thing. But why is it okay to be drinking in the airport at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning because you're going on
Yeah,
holiday or whatever? It's like,
yeah.
not everyone's going on holiday. And
Well. Look, it's like
it's mental.
you could have two groups of people, couldn't you? You could have two groups of people drinking,
Hmm.
and one of those groups, and let's say it's both at midday, and one of those groups can be very nicely dressed, and they can be in a wine bar or having drinks with their meal, and then the other group of people who are also socialising could be homeless and they could be in the park and
Yeah.
they could be drinking tinnies. There is no difference between those two groups of people.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you're in the group who's in the wine bar or in the restaurant, you will see yourself very, very differently.
Yeah, of course you will.
Very,
You
very
would be like,
differently.
well, I'm not drinking out of a brown paper bag, but there's literally no difference. Just because you're doing it to maybe a higher sophistication because your wine's more expensive,
Yeah,
no
yeah,
different at all. It's no different at
yeah.
all, you know.
Yeah, but those two groups of people, what are they searching out? They're searching out connection.
Hmm.
They're searching out a sense of belonging and
Belonging, yeah.
caring. Yeah,
No one's
yeah,
judging them because they're all doing it together.
yeah,
So rather than
yeah.
being sat on their own, and it's that whole thing like wine. We call one of the words for people sat on a park bench with a bottle and a brown paper bag is a wino, because
Mm,
wine
mm.
is a ridiculously strong alcohol to be drinking, compared to like I think, is it Mickey Flanagan or the comedian, and he's talking about going, because I think he's sober now, and he's talking about going to like a house party, and the guys will turn up with a 6 pack of beer, but women will turn up with a bottle of wine for themselves, because you're not sharing that, you're drinking that to
That's
yourself. But
right.
like, compared to like the 4 beers, he's like, I might as well turn up with freaking 6 pack of Tennant Super, which is like 8
Yeah,
9%, because
yeah, yeah,
that's still not going to get me as drunk as the bottle of wine. But wine is
yeah,
this sophistication and blah blah blah. It's not. It's a quick and easy way of getting mullered, really.
yeah. And you know what? So I bought myself a bottle of non-alcoholic mulled wine
Oh yeah,
a
nice.
couple of weeks ago. It was like bonfire night. And I've got these little kind of glass mugs, and they look quite small. I think they're from IKEA or something. So
Hmm.
I had two glasses of it, heated it up, and it's like that's nice. And then I went to look at the bottle, and I was like, oh my god, there's only about you know 6 to 8 inches left in the bottle of that bottle. So in those two glasses, I've literally had over half a bottle
Yeah,
of
yeah.
wine. Now, luckily for me, it's non-alcoholic mulled wine, but that's with 10 years of not drinking. I'm still shocked at how much volume was in those two glasses. And I think there've been studies as well, the documentaries where is it Adrian Charles maybe, and he's gone and spoken to people about what size glass that they use. And of course, when you're at home, there's a lot of free pouring going on, and
Hmm.
people have become really distanced from and disconnected from the amount that they're consuming and how that
Yeah.
stacks up with units. And I know that the amount of units that's now within the safe guideline has reduced to what it used to be back in the 90s. But I
Hmm.
think people still think that like one glass is one unit, and that's not the case because
No.
there's so many variables
I
within
mean,
that.
I'm not sure what a unit is, and I should know this, but I think a large glass of wine, and I don't know what they serve in pubs now that might have changed, but I think a large glass of wine when I was drinking 5 years ago, well, you could get like a small glass, which was 125 ml.
Mm,
Large
mm,
glass is 250 ml. Most people go for the
yeah,
large glass. Standard bottle of wine is a 75 cl. So that's three large glasses. So if you're
yeah,
going out with two of your mates, and you're all
yeah.
having a large glass each, you might as well buy the bottle because it's cheaper, but
Well, of
they don't,
course,
do they?
that's
And they
girl
just
maths.
buy glasses. Yeah. So you're maybe having like four, maybe three or four glasses on a night
Yeah.
or on an afternoon out. And that's like a
Mm.
bottle
Easy.
and a quarter. Easy. You've had yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easy. I mean, like I would do. So again, all bar one came in at a time when I was living in London. Me and
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
friends would meet up, and it was Bridget Jones era. We'd have
Yeah.
those big glasses of Chardonnay, and girl math, may as well just get a bottle. Oh, should we get another one? Easily between three of us, we'd have three bottles of wine, and we'd
Yeah.
kind of totter home individually on the tube, and how we were getting home. So unsafe. So
Yeah.
you just
Vulnerable.
look back and yeah,
So
completely.
vulnerable.
And
So vulnerable.
you've put
Yeah.
yourself in that situation as well. And I think there was just not very much education at
Hmm.
at the time, um, that you could inform yourself with, and you were just in this bubble of it's all okay, everyone else is doing it. And
Hmm.
that was that I never really benchmarked where I was at drinking because everyone else was doing the same. But I think you probably seek out similar people,
Oh, without a doubt.
um to smokers always find other smokers, right? And it's like drinkers always find other drinkers because you're not judging each other. And when I became a mum, I think that my hormones changed massively as
Hmm.
a result of it. Also, I had a few years of getting absolutely no sleep, which was
Hmm.
just a killer. And I had this sort of 2 year period where I didn't know what impact the amount of alcohol that I was going to drink was going to have on me.
Hmm.
So it could be that I would go out and have 3 glasses, 4 glasses of wine and be kind of okay.
Yeah.
Or I could have 2 glasses of wine and be a total car crash.
Wow.
And it became very, very unpredictable and a source of anxiety. How am I going to be? What impact is it going to have? And so, just to like seal the deal, I'd probably have a little glass of wine before I went out.
And do you
And it
think
was
it
so.
was to do with maybe you not eating before you went out? Because that was a thing, eating's cheating and all that. So sometimes
Oh
we'd go
yeah,
out,
well, yeah. So I mean, certainly I'd find it really hard to eat before I went out because I'd be stupidly excited about going
yeah,
out.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I've kind of, in sobriety, have recognised that I'm not the extrovert I thought I was. I'm more of an introvert. So I can
Hmm.
now see that that excitement was actually um, social anxiety really,
Yeah.
really building up. Um, But more than that, when you're in your 40s, your liver's ability to process alcohol and also estrogen really, really shifts. And your hormones are doing different things, and they're kind of all a bit skywire.
Hmm.
And so that was where the unpredictability was coming in. And you know, I was also we'd moved. I was in like a town where I didn't know people. I'm looking back on it, I'm like, oh my god, that was so brave. Um, but I had a lot of my like social network had gone.
Hmm.
I was spending a lot of time being primary caregiver, and so having sort of my evenings was having a glass of wine in the evening became a signal to switch off. It
Mm.
became like, this is my time, but also later on it became more of I just want to be on my own
Yeah.
with my booze, just to like kind of re-regulate, self-soothe, and kind of process my day or like little snippets that
Hmm.
had happened. And that became like a way to achieve that. It became like my coping mechanism.
Hmm.
So from a technical kind of perspective of, you know, oh, towards the end, were you drinking more? No, I wasn't. I was drinking way less than
Hmm.
I had been in my 20s and early 30s. But the way it was impacting me was
Yeah.
far more significant. And I was in a place where I just felt really quite desperate about myself, like desperately unhappy,
Hmm.
desperately lonely. Um, and I was questioning a lot, and I just kind of had I wasn't very happy with like how my life looked or how I looked or my weight or my energy levels. My
Hmm.
sleep was crap, and I was really, really pretty down. And I just kind of had this moment when I'd got suckered on this detox thing, and I was doing these foot patches where you like put these foot patches in, and they're meant to like suck out all the toxins in your
Oh.
body. Total snake oil stuff, right?
Right. Right.
But
Okay.
but really, really worth the value light bulb moment of maybe I just shouldn't be putting all this crap in the
Yeah,
first
like
place.
you want to take it out, but actually, if you're putting it in
Yeah,
anyway, like
yeah,
let's just stop it going
yeah,
in to begin with.
yeah.
Yeah.
So simple. So simple. It took
Yeah.
me a year. It took me a year from that, like, to actually activate that. And I kind of look back on that now. I say now, but when I first stopped, I was like, using that old sales analogy. If you're going to chop down a tree, not that I'm advocating chopping down trees, but if you're going to chop down a tree and you've got 8 hours to do it, spend 7 sharpening the axe. Right? Like
Yeah.
get your
Yeah.
ducks in a row. So I'd sort of spent a lot of time thinking about it, like. And it wasn't kind of like, oh, how will it look like? What will this vision of me be like? It wasn't anywhere as advanced as that. It was, how am I going to do it? And I
Hmm.
didn't have a clue. And the real sticking point for me was, what will I drink? What
Mm.
will I drink instead of Sauvignon Blanc? Like, what? Because back then, there was Caliber and there was Beck's Blue,
Hmm.
and both are absolutely bogging.
Yeah.
So, what am I going to drink? I don't want to just, like for me, a can of Coke was a hangover drink.
Yeah.
So, why would
And
I
you
want
don't
to
want to
do
be in a pub or a restaurant or a wine bar with a Sprite or a orange and soda. You don't
Not
want to be.
really,
No.
or with what you'd have as a hangover cure.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's super triggery.
Yeah, of
Like,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it was a real sticking point for me. And then in the end, I discovered quite a nice cordial, and I was like, okay, I think I could manage on
Hmm.
this. So that was kind of like, okay. And I'd also bought a book. Again, there weren't any books, there weren't any podcasts, there weren't people talking about not drinking. People who didn't drink were people who were alcoholics. People
Yeah.
did not stop drinking back in 2015
Yeah.
for lifestyle choices because they were sober curious.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying they didn't as a broad brush. A tiny few might be,
And they
but
weren't out
I
there,
didn't know any of them.
and they weren't out
No,
there shouting about it. And also, like you're saying, the people that were alcoholics that had a problem, society was saying, well, you're doing it wrong. You're not able to handle your booze. That's why you've become an
yeah,
alcoholic. You're not nothing to do with the fact that it's a drug, and that
mm,
there's all these different other aspects of why people have an alcohol misuse disorder. But it's like the society in those days was saying, well, if you drink too much, you're an alcoholic. I mean, I probably banded the word alcoholic around in those days jokingly. I didn't think I was an alcoholic or I had a problem with alcohol. I was just doing what everyone else was doing. It wasn't until I
yeah,
started seriously thinking about giving up in about 2018, 2019 that I was like, oh, yeah. And by then there was like a lot more stuff. There's still not as much as there is now, even when I gave up in 2020, like we were talking about. There was a lot more Instagram accounts, but there was nothing about in 2015, was there? Really at
no,
all?
no. I mean, I didn't know anyone who had stopped drinking or who was kind of like rocking it, or it was literally people were like in apologetic
Yeah,
recovery,
yeah,
because like alcoholics were, people who'd somehow failed.
yeah,
They were somehow people who couldn't control their drinking, and it was shameful. And
yeah.
I didn't really feel like that. I just knew that alcohol wasn't serving me. Like,
Hmm.
if I stopped doing this thing, I was going to feel better. Like, that was at its fundamental core.
Yeah.
And I felt sort of sad about that, because it had been so interwoven in all aspects of my life, and everybody was doing it, and it was completely normal. And
Hmm.
so the thought of, well, you need to stop this, felt abnormal, like
Hmm.
somehow there was something wrong with me. But I really felt it in my core that I I needed to remove it. But how I was going to remove it was that was kind of,
Well, yeah,
it's a
because
bit like someone saying, would you like to climb Everest? And you go, I'd love to climb Everest. And they're going, well, there it is. Off you go. And you're like,
crack
well,
on.
I've never, yeah, I haven't got any boots. I haven't got any crampons. I haven't got a little.
And I've never done this before.
Never done this before, and I don't
Yeah.
really know which path to go on.
And I
Like,
guess the only
and,
real
and, and no one
avenue.
else is there. Like, I've just got to do it on my own.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. There's no Sherpas or anything like that. But I
Yeah,
bet
yeah.
I bet in those days the only real avenue available to you, I don't even know when Smart started up, but the only real avenue that was probably available to you was AA. And that was probably not even an option for you at that point because you didn't see yourself as being that bad or
Yeah, like, I kind of look. So I've had 10 years to ponder this, right? And I
mm,
still haven't got the answer. Was I that bad? I mean, yeah, at times, yeah. But we all were. Like, everyone who still drinks can be that bad.
oh, I
So I
think there's
wasn't.
a lot of people out there that are in denial, this
So yeah, so
yeah.
like I wasn't exceptionally bad.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes it wasn't working well, but a lot of the times it was fine.
Yeah.
But also on paper, when you look at how much we were all drinking normally, that's in, if you want to look at sort of alcohol misuse and units and guidelines, then by that token, everyone's an alcoholic. Like, unless you're really only having one glass of wine a week, kind of
Hmm.
thing,
No,
you
yeah, yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I haven't got sort of like an answer on that. Like, I didn't feel like I wanted to go and sit in the archetypal church hall in a basement or whatever and say I was something that I didn't feel that I
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I think it's as simple as that. Like, I get a lot of social anxiety going out with really close friends
Hmm.
to go and, have a nice time, let alone the thought of stepping into an unknown space to meet
Yeah.
people I didn't know and say something that I didn't believe in. So that really, that from a value perspective, that was going to be a hard ask. But equally, back then, I didn't even know what my values were. I didn't know what
Yeah.
my identity was.
And I
But I just
guess
had a sense of, that's not me, and I don't resonate with that. So I'm just going to have to do this
yeah.
on
And I
my own.
suppose without the, when I got sober 5 years ago, there was all these different, like my idea was that I was going to be out and tell people I'm giving up alcohol because I had a problem with it. But whereas with you, what I was going to say was, like, there was all these different excuses like that I was finding on Instagram, that if people say to you, "Oh, why are you not drinking tonight?" you could come out with all these excuses like, "Oh, I've got a run tomorrow," or "I'm on antibiotics," or "I'm just driving tonight," or "I'm having a week off." Do you know, there was all these different excuses that they were out there for you to go, "Oh, I could say that." Now, I chose not to do any of those, but back even
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, like, you were probably wondering, how am I going to explain to my friends and buddies, "Oh, I've stopped drinking"? Are they going to instantly go, "What's the matter? Are you an alcoholic?" Because, when you're not even thinking that you are yourself, but
Yeah,
there's that negative impact of you stopping drinking back then. Like, it's bad enough nowadays, but 10 years ago, people would be like,
yeah.
"Why are you stopping drinking? Like, what's wrong
Yeah,
with
what's
you?"
wrong with you? Yeah, exactly. What's
Yeah.
wrong with you? Why would you?
Yeah.
I am useless at white lies. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't see the point of them either. It's too much to try and remember. So
Of
actually,
course.
yeah. So I wouldn't. That wouldn't have been my route. I kind of just went to ground,
Hmm.
and what I did was, so I didn't come out for 3 months, and it really felt like coming out as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a couple of evenings out in that time where I'd go to the cinema or I'd go to the theatre.
Hmm.
Um,
Did you tell your
we,
husband?
yeah, well, I did after about 2 weeks, and
Right.
actually,
Okay.
in a kind of like, I can't believe you've not noticed. And he
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I just thought you just didn't want to," because although he's, he was in the military for 25 years, big drinking culture.
Hmm.
He'd also spent 1,000 days in theatre
All
where he
right.
wasn't drinking. So he's like, kind of, "Oh, someone's not drinking for a while. Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
It's not a
yeah,
big deal
cool.
for people that don't have,
Yeah,
like Jen, my
yeah.
wife, she doesn't drink at all, really. I mean, she'll have the odd one here and there, but it's take it or leave it. If she's
Mm,
going out to a night out, she was out at an awards ceremony last night and she was driving, and it was like, I'm sure her friends were drinking around her, but it wasn't even a thing, "Oh, could you come and pick me up?" Like, I would have come and picked her up if she'd needed to, but it was just like, she's not bothered, you know?
yeah. Oh, he's definitely not in that camp.
Right, okay.
Just to be clear, in
Yeah.
case he
Yeah,
decides
yeah,
to listen
yeah,
to this, I
yeah.
wouldn't want to do him a disservice. He's definitely
He likes a drink, yeah.
he
Yeah.
likes a drink, yeah.
Yeah.
And 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 actually, when I came to sort of thinking about how I'm going to stop, it was very much this needs. Although this is about me, it's not about everybody else.
Hmm.
This is my personal decision
Hmm.
and my personal choice, and I've got to be okay with what other people are doing.
Hmm.
And that was hard. That first Christmas, where normally I would be getting stuck into the bottles of prosecco, and previously they'd been lying right down the side of the house.
Yeah. And again, that's another one. It's early doors, so you can have Prosecco at like
Yeah.
10 o'clock on Christmas Day if you want,
Oh yeah,
even
yeah,
earlier.
100%. That was really tough, and it did just sort of feel like hard help cooking all the food, and try to like embrace all the positives and see all the
Hmm.
positives, but also like there wasn't anywhere where I could read that information. I was just having to work it out
Yeah.
for myself. There wasn't like all my top 10 tips for getting through the silly season. It was literally go through. And to be fair, I didn't think that when I stopped that I was going to make it to Christmas. Like already, when I stopped, I was kind of giving myself get out of jail free cards of, oh, if you could just make it to like the start of December,
Yeah.
you've given yourself a little bit of a detox before
You've proved that
Christmas.
you've done it. You've proved yourself you
Yeah,
can do
well,
it. Have
yeah,
Christmas, have a
yeah,
wet Christmas and then a dry
yeah,
January. Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, 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 no. Again, I would never have done Sober October or
Yeah.
Dry Jan.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's no way I could think about doing it, even for a controlled period of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Not a chance. And because it was every day, there was like making a drink with having a drink, making something with dinner, and then so and so's home, or there's always a
Oh, it's
reason
a
to
ritual.
celebrate or
It's a
commit.
ritual, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it was, it was all time, and it was social. So yeah, I could not have stopped, and so I was kind of like, well, if I could just get to like that beginning part of Christmas, then that would be good. So already, I was saying to myself, just 2 weeks, because that felt Herculean. And I really surprised myself. I mean, I went out and I bought the bottles with 25% off from Tesco's. Thank you, Tesco's. And then it got to the day, and I was like, well, I just wonder if I can do another day. Can I do another day? And then I got to New Year's Eve, and I hate New Year's Eve. Even when I was a boozer, I never went out on New Year's Eve because you'd have to queue. There were queues for the toilets. Drinks cost more. I'd always go out the night before New Year's
Oh,
Eve
yeah.
when it was quiet, get in lots and lots of drinks in a normal thing, no queues for taxis, none of that kind of stuff. And then I'd spend New Year's Eve getting over my hangover, and then I'd like to go out on New Year's Day and have a lovely day, go for a nice stroll, some nice food somewhere, do something nice.
Yeah.
So this was going to be the first time that we were kind of going out on New Year's Eve, and we're going to a house party. Lots of friends were going to be there, and I remember driving there, and I had my two 2-litre bottles of sparkling water. I mean, how I thought I was going to get through 4 litres of sparkling water, because no one else was going to be drinking any of them.
Yeah.
I have
And
no
you're not
idea.
that thirsty when you don't drink. You're like,
I
I'll
know.
literally have a pint of fizzy water and orange, and that'll do me all night because
Yeah.
I'm not gagging for a thirst on. Yeah.
Well, I was so nervous. I remember going in and plonking them down on the counter and saying, I'm not drinking tonight, like really big visual statement. And everyone being quite sort of surprised and shocked. And then being like, oh, okay, whatever, going on. And then later on, one of my friends, who actually I'm going to meet for coffee tomorrow, saying to me, when they were a little bit tipsy, say, do you think this is forever? I probably had a few sobs. Oh, I don't know. Probably thinking, I hope not. And actually, I am just so blooming grateful that yes, it managed to be, because I remember on New Year's Day looking in the mirror, and it was about 3 months at that point, and instead of my eyes being bloodshot as they normally would
Yeah.
be after that sort of festive period, I had really, my whites were really like white,
Yeah.
and my pupils had a sparkle to them.
Yeah.
And I just sort of saw this person looking back at me that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And I got such a kind of yes, a real sense of validation. Like this has been hard, but this is worth it. And actually, this is great. And I think at the time on the radio, it was Lola's tune, I'm a Different Person, Turned My World Around, which is such like a sober anthem. I just
Yeah.
love it. And I was like, I think I can keep going. And because my birthday's on the 9th, and I gave up on the 9th, I on that day thought, well, what would a sober birthday look like? And I kind of had a bit of a visualization, manifestation of what would be nice to do, given that I now wasn't going to be going out
Yep.
and drinking, and how would I like my birthday to look? And at that point, what I kind of visualized was completely unattainable, not on the cards, and just the universe kind of conspired for that to happen. And I think that that's the magic of sobriety, isn't it? You feel a lot of the time that there aren't possibilities, or that your mindset's really closed when you're drinking and you can't see where the directions forward are. And then when you quit drinking, you have a real mindset shift, and things start to become possible, and you see that things are changing and things are evolving, and that things are in a constant state of positive change. Whereas previously, when things were changing, it was normally because I had made a massive error, and either of judgment, or just totally got things wrong, or kind of seen things, like you just not had that clarity.
Yeah.
And and I think it was at that point I was like, I can keep going with this. But interestingly, it wasn't until I was 4.5 years of not drinking when I actually thought, this could be forever.
This could be forever.
Like
Wow. Right.
up until that time, it was just just see how this
See how it
goes.
goes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I had no support network. I had no framework for kind of exploring options or hearing other people's inputs. It was very much a solo journey. There wasn't any noise. It was very
Yeah.
quiet, and you really tap into your own reserves with that
Yeah.
because and you find layers of resilience that you didn't quite realize that you had. You find that you're maybe more intuitive that you'd given yourself credit for. You
Hmm.
start to get in touch with different aspects that had just remained. You know, you're a gardener, so it was like finding the bulbs that hadn't ever come up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get weeding them
Yeah,
out, and yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and I mean it's so remarkable because you know I guess you didn't really get to a major kind of rock bottom. You know, I know you wanted to give up to kind of make yourself have a better life and get rid
Mm.
of the kind of depression and how you're feeling and kind of detox yourself. But once you'd kind of done that, maybe over the first year or even 6 months, you know, no one would have blamed you to kind of go back to it, you know, and it's kind of like the strong mindedness that you had with no real support at all to just keep going, and then eventually after 4.5 years to go, yeah, do you know what, I'm going to make this kind of, because see for me, and I hate to compare, but you know, I had to, because if I
Mm.
hadn't, I wouldn't be here now. It was that bad, you know. Whereas,
Mm.
and I know there's all different levels and whatnot, but it's you just kind of did it yourself, you know, and it's so commendable. And
But also I didn't want to go any further with those
yeah,
levels. You know, like you got to the level that you got to and decided I can't go any further. But
yeah.
actually, I'm sure there's more levels that a different Jimmy in a different
Oh,
dimension has gone, and I just didn't want to go any further with it.
yeah,
It was time. I'd had my my amount of units and several other people's for
yeah,
sure. You
yeah. Well, you
know,
had a lifetime supply, and
I'd
then
had,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I'd
yeah,
had it, and I didn't like what it was doing to me.
yeah.
And but you're right, because oh, you weren't that bad. There
Mhm.
was like some pressure to join in, to come back, or just have one, or
Yeah.
you know, oh
You've had a
well, you
year
know,
off, you've had 2 years off. Look,
yeah,
you've proved it to everyone. Your body's repaired itself, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
You can go
yeah,
back. But to have that
yeah.
peace of mind and that strong mindedness to go, no, do you know what? I don't like what it was serving me anymore.
No,
I'm done with it.
no.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you into a secret.
Mm.
So, a couple of years in, probably about, I don't know, maybe 2.5 or 3 years in,
Hmm.
I was on holiday. My mum was on holiday with us. And a big part of like our history when we'd been on holiday was that we would drink, you know, we would drink
Yeah, yeah,
wine.
yeah.
And I was doing a bit of work in the evening, and she was like, "Oh, you know, I've got this," and it used to be like our favourite. She's like, "Oh, do you want to have a, you know?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm good, honestly, but thank you." Like I appreciated the gesture, and
Hmm.
then she'd like have she'd obviously had like another couple of drinks. She's like, "Oh, go on, will you?" She's like Mrs. Doyle in Father Ted. "Oh, go on,
Oh,
will you? Go
you
on, will
will
you?"
have. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you know, it was a really low. She was going, "It's a really low white wine," and it was. I think it was like 3.5%. So at that time, yeah, and no part timer, right?
Well, you're
It's
like,
like,
what's the point? You know, what?
and at that time, there was like this category called low, which was like 1.5 to 3.5%. It was kind of, you know,
Mm.
it was like a thing. And she's like, and then she brought one. She said, I put some soda in it. And I was like,
She's really
thinking,
not giving up, is she?
yeah, and I was like, oh, she really wants like a buddy. And so I was like, okay. So I caved. And
Hmm.
I had half of this very weak white wine spritzer with her.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't really like the taste. Which I was like, oh, that's good. It was kind of like almost like I had like a little clipboard. I was like, I don't like the taste. That's good. By the way, I'm not recommending that anyone does this at
Hmm.
all.
Hmm.
Um, and then she was like, would you like another? This was like a little bit later, and I was like, no, no, I'm good, thanks. Because by that point, the you know the ice had melted and stuff.
Yeah.
But I felt different even though it was like a minute amount of alcohol, I
Hmm.
felt different. I felt like the start of like feeling a little bit merry, a bit tipsy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but you never stuck at this level. Like
Yeah.
you never, ever achieved that.
Hmm.
Because by the time you felt like that, you'd have already had like three or four
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
drinks or
Yeah.
and I was just like, no, no. And even though it was a minute amount, I was like, I actually like always feeling present,
Hmm.
always feeling like conscious, connected, dialed into what's going on, or tuned out because actually I don't want to be
Be part
involved
of
in
that.
what's going
Yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah,
but having the ability on my terms.
yeah,
And I was like, so it was really interesting, and it was one of those things where it could have gone really really wrong.
yeah,
I
yeah.
could have picked up from that and go and everyone been like, yeah, the old
She's
Emma's back,
back. Yeah.
brilliant.
But
'Cause-
also the
yeah.
danger of that, because I was talking in one of our meetings the other day, the peer mentoring meeting, I always joke like, if I had a baby sham, I'd probably be on the floor, and it's weird because coming
Mm,
from drinking a bottle of vodka a day to then, 5 years later, if I had a baby sham, I would be talking rubbish and I'd be drunk on it, and it'd be
yeah.
funny. But then I would probably get the taste for it and think that I could drink what I used to drink, and it'd kill me because,
Mm,
I mean, that's what killed
mm,
Amy Winehouse. And it is that danger
yeah.
level of having so much time sobriety and then thinking, oh, well, I'll be okay. And
Mm.
the truth
You see,
is,
I
the truth
didn't. I
is we're
didn't.
not. Yeah.
I didn't, and that, obviously, I'm not an AA person. I've been,
Mm.
I've been to one online meeting during the pandemic that my friend hosted, which I found really interesting.
Hmm.
So I'm not here to either go, yeah, it's great, or slate it, whatever. But like, I'm never felt that I'm in that kind of that sort of you'll never be cured, you'll never be this. I've never had that kind of information download, but inherently I feel I need to protect
Hmm.
what I've worked really hard to achieve.
Hmm.
And it was really kind of empowering to have that experience of I don't want this anymore, and also a
Yeah.
bit of like, wow, who the hell are you? This is next level unlocked. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's
yeah, yeah,
interesting because, you know, I think a lot of people, myself included, be like, "Oh, I wonder what it'd be like," and it
yeah.
is
Don't do
just a
it.
thought. No, and I don't, and that's the other thing. So I was in the fellowship, steeped heavily in it for the first year, until I then kind of, there was aspects, and I kind of moved on from it. But I know it's there. But yeah, I was, and I would say things like, one day at a time and never say never, and I will always be an alcoholic or an addict until I die, and all of that stuff. Now, I don't say that anymore because I don't believe it, because I know that if I have another, I know for a fact I'm never going to have another drink again, because I'm done with it. It's gone. It's out of my life. I have no interest in it. I'm not sitting there going, oh, I wonder what it'd be like. I'm done with that. But I also know that if I was to go out and have a drink tonight, it's pretty much 99% chance that I would be right back to where I was, because I reckon that I would get the taste of it again and I'd go back. I'm not 100% convinced, but I know that it's a chance not worth even taking.
Yeah.
Why would I even go down that road,
I think as
Um,
well, it's like in sobriety, you build a life
mhm,
that you don't want to numb out from. And the last 5 years of my life have been really, really hard. There's been some very, very tough times in the last 3 years.
mhm.
It has not been easy. So I'm not someone who goes, oh yeah, unicorns and rainbows and
And pink
sobriety's
clouds,
magical
yeah,
fix, and yeah, I never got them
yeah,
either.
yeah.
But like with sobriety, you build resilience to challenges and to dealing with life on life's terms. And however tricky things get or become, I know that I've got the resources, the skills, the ability to sit with those problems,
Hmm.
work through those problems, those issues, or just graft and get on with it.
Yeah.
until life shifts, and to do that without a headache,
Mm.
without feeling sick, without emptying my bank account,
Yeah.
without making an idiot of myself. And be able to juggle all the other things. Like, I love the fact now that my kids are teenagers,
Hmm.
that I can get in the car and I can go and be wherever they need to be
Yeah.
at any point, and help, should that be the case,
Yeah.
rather than, oh, I've had a drink.
Yeah.
Like, and there is so much pride in just knowing that
That you
that
can do that.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I've got three stepkids, and two of them are teenagers, and I've say to them all the time, if there's anything that you need, or if you need me to come and pick you up. But
Mm.
a few years ago, my friend, I did a bit of gardening for as well. His wife and him, they were having a few drinks in the house, and so he had been drinking. His wife, I don't think she was drinking, but she had this. It turned out she needed an appendectomy. I think her like appendix basically
Oh
burst
God.
from, and it was all happened. And this was at about it was about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. Their niece, who was, I think she was 17, and she had a provisional, and she hadn't been drinking, and she had to drive them up to the hospital. And
Mm.
it was one of those things. And he told me this a couple of days later, and I was like, man, you know that you can always call me because I won't be drinking. And he was like, oh yeah. He goes, I never thought about that. And he goes, oh,
Yeah.
it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was like, I'd probably be up anyway. So, but just in the future, God forbid it ever happens again. But I said, I'm one of those ones now that you can call because I won't have had a drink. And he was like,
But how?
but it's
But
so, yeah, it means the
yeah,
world to me that I can say that to people.
yeah. You can
Yeah,
show up for you're
yeah,
not just showing up for yourself. You're showing up for other people,
yeah.
and like,
But
towards
also,
the,
why
I
would I
think.
want to do something that would hinder me being able to go and just, do you know what I mean? Like drive a car. Like if I
Yeah.
need to go and help someone and do something that, like, I have the ability to drive a car because I passed my test and I have a car. Why would I want to then take something that
Mhm.
makes me not be able to use that
And you
mode
can
of
do it
transport?
100% of the year at any
Yeah,
hour.
exactly. Yeah, any time of day, any time of year, I can do it. And
I
it's
know.
like,
Yeah.
but for so long I didn't even have a car because I was like, why do I need a car? I live in a
I
city
didn't.
and I drink, so yeah.
Yeah, this is like poker. I didn't even pass my test because what was the point?
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. Why would you need it? You don't need it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Emma, do
And
you
it's,
regret getting sober?
oh my gosh, no. Like, I could I've got so much gratitude for that one
Hmm.
decision. And if I could write a list of all the reasons why I'm so happy about that choice and all the benefits, it would be
Hmm.
a really, really long list. And there would also be a lot of things missing on it because it's just an endless,
Oh
endless
God, yeah.
list. And and you know, as each like month clocks up, there's always another reason. Like every single day, like I at the beginning, I was such a bingo counter for the days,
Hmm.
and I think that's because I didn't have a lot of other resources or support. So it's like counting on my fingers and stuff. That was like a big big thing.
Yeah.
But so 10 years on, I don't really kind of check in as much. But every day, I think, God, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was drinking, or
Hmm.
I wouldn't have got so much pleasure from that if I still had alcohol in my life.
Yeah.
So there's not a day that goes past where I don't feel huge gratitude
Hmm.
for that choice. I think my only regret is that I didn't do it sooner,
Hmm.
but hey ho, I did it when I did it.
You did it when
So
you did it,
yeah,
and there's no harm in people doing it at 50, 60, 70, 80. Any time's a good time to do it. But
yeah,
like you, like me, I'm so glad I did it now because, as we know, 5 years goes past, 10 years goes past, and if we were still out there, like you said, I said I probably wouldn't be here, but I probably would still be here, but I'd be a very different state of a person and human being. I'd be,
yeah.
probably literally on my last legs. But even if I wasn't, and I still had a job and a roof above my head, I would probably be like barely any friends. My family would have probably given up on me a long time ago. but there's still a chance that I could get sober. Of course there is.
Mm,
But then to
mm,
start again and be day one, of course that'd be great. But I'm just so glad I did it when I did it, you know.
yeah.
And
I mean, same here. Like, I feel the relationships that I've got, like your relationships change, but the relationships that I've got now feel really strong.
yeah,
Even the relationship with my husband, like, you can think, well, if over the last 10 years we'd both been drinking,
hmm,
how would, think things, there have been some life events which have been difficult. How would we have navigated those
yeah,
if I'd had alcohol in the mix?
yeah,
I would have reacted very differently, and things could have escalated. Would we still be together? I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
We just don't
so
know.
yeah, it's such a sliding doors moment, and I'm
Yeah.
so
But
glad that I got on the tube. Yeah.
you got on the tube, and I'm just so grateful because, you know, I met Jen over 2 years ago now, and we got married in the summer, and she's got three amazing kids that are now my stepkids, and they've never, ever had to see me when I was a drinker, you know, and I'm
Yeah.
just so grateful for that, that they'll never have to see me, you know, just maybe come in and be a bit belligerent or, you know, forget what I've said or passed out on the couch when they've come home. Or do you know what I mean? I mean, I was never like a horrible, horrible drunk, but I was drunk nonetheless. And, you know, my ex and her kids had to deal with that a lot and on a daily basis. So I'm just so grateful that these guys don't have to do that. And it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It makes a massive difference, and I think your self worth, your sense of self, your esteem, your dignity. It
Yeah.
just it all, it makes you feel better about yourself as a
Yeah.
person.
And I
Um,
think that resonates out of us, and people see it, and they kind of, you know, I've got friends here who, you know, when they hear me talking about, you know, alcohol and all that, it kind of gives them that little boost and think, oh, you know, maybe I should, because I want what he's got, you know, and I'm maybe thinking of, you know, knocking it on the head as well. They haven't yet, but you know, maybe you know, maybe they will do at one point. But you know, people's habits have definitely changed, you know.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I think when you don't drink, you are you're planting seeds,
yeah,
and it kind of depends how long those seeds take to grow in
hmm,
other people's lives. Like, on my wedding day, I didn't drink because I was pregnant,
hmm,
and one of my friends from uni was there, and they weren't drinking, and I was really surprised. I was
hmm,
like, "How come you're not drinking?" And they said, "Oh, I'm just having a bit of a break with alcohol at the moment." I said, just feel like we all started drinking at 18. I was like, 18? Like, a bit
hmm.
slow.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm saying I'm really 18.
yeah,
And they sort of just felt like I wanted to, it was just something that we all just started doing without really questioning it. I just want to re-question my decision.
nice.
And I was like, we say, well, yeah, now we say nice. At the time, I was like, how weird. Like,
Yeah, what?
you live in France. Like,
Yeah,
shouldn't red wine be coming out of the taps? I really couldn't get my head around it. Um, but that little seed landed, and I don't know how, so 2007, and about seven years later, it's that little conversation started to
yeah,
replay again. And like, if someone else can do it and just take a step out and reassess their their decision making process,
hmm,
the point they are now rather than as a teen, why can't I? And I think that, you know people people see that we're happy with our choice. Like,
hmm.
I never want to be the sort of person who is a miserable non-drinker, because
No,
that's
that's
wow. It was the alcohol that was making me miserable, right?
yeah.
So it's
I mean,
like,
I think those are kind of, we call them dry drunks, and it's like you haven't worked on whatever it was that was kind of making you drink in the first
yeah,
place. So even though you've knocked the drink out, you're still dealing with those issues, and you're just angry at the world because you can no longer drink. And it's like,
yeah,
you need to work out what's going on with that. But like what we were saying at the beginning, when you got sober in 2015, there wasn't the same Instagram or podcast, or well, there wasn't any of it going on. So I think that we're having this kind of crossover now, 5 years on from when I got sober. The people that are not like even have a problem with alcohol, or they're not even maybe a grey area drinker, but they're getting sober curious, and they're typing in hashtag sober or hashtag sober life or whatever it hashtag whatever, and they're searching it and they're going, ah, so it's not just people that are like, oh my god, I need to stop drinking, right, what am I going to find on the internet? No, it's people that are like, I want to get fitter, I want to get healthier, I want to be more mindful, what can I do? So then they're coming across accounts like yourselves, mine, other people's, and there is now that crossover. So it's not just people that are, at the worst of the worst, or a grey area drinker. They're
I
people that
think
are
it's
just, yeah, opening up.
yeah. I think it's seen as a more expansive option rather than like last chance saloon.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I
yeah.
think I think a lot more young people are definitely not even starting drinking. Do you know what I mean? I think they're just kind of, they might have a little bit here and a little bit there, but I think there's definitely a lot more. They're not going out and getting completely smashed as like you and I did back in the day.
Oh, I'm kind of having a slightly different experience with my
Right.
teenagers. To be
Okay. Okay.
honest.
How old are they?
I've got one who's nearly 18, and yeah, I'm kind of like, oh my goodness. But equally thinking, well, you were just like that, Emma.
Yeah.
You were just like that. But yeah, so I think alcohol is still, unfortunately, it's still there. It seems to be the one thing in school that isn't really talked about. They
Hmm.
get a lot of education
On drugs.
about drugs, but not on alcohol. It's still, it's still there in the Christmas raffles.
And
It's
why is it drugs and alcohol? Alcohol's a drug, so it should
yeah,
just be the same. Like
yeah, like
motivate that I work for over here, the addiction charity. They are going into the schools and teaching people the dangers of drugs and alcohol, which is great. I mean, our oldest is 15, and then there's 13, and the younger one's 9. But the two older ones, they're getting to that age where I'm sure some of their friends have are started doing it, and this, that, and the other. So I know that it's kind of coming round the bend, and we're going to have to deal with maybe a drunken night here or there. But it's how they, whether they go for it hell for leather, or it's like, well, I was just having an experience and I don't really like it, or I don't know. We're just gonna have to navigate that as it comes.
but I feel I feel people need to explore things in the way that they're kind of heading, not necessarily heading. That sounds all right. Let's reword that. I feel I haven't played a part in it,
Hmm.
in the sense I've not been modelling it.
Of course, yeah, yeah,
So although it wouldn't necessarily be my choice, it's readily available. It's there. It's kind of I get it. It's sort of a rite of passage as well. Um, but I do feel glad that I haven't played any part in that, and
yeah.
and also that I can say that I don't approve
Hmm.
without being by the kitchen hob with a glass of wine in my hand, being hypocritical about it,
Yeah.
or you're too young to drink, or
You're too
like
young to drink now. Go and fill up my gin and tonic. It's yeah. But the thing is, even though you haven't had a part in the modelling of it, society has. We've
oh, for
still got a
sure,
long way to go
yeah,
before TV's stopping showing it, advertising stopping doing it. Like
yeah,
putting warnings on the bottles, that needs to start happening, because like what we
yeah.
were saying earlier with the smoking, when that started ramping up in the early to mid 90s, when it was like warnings, the price well, that was it, the government were saying, and they're still saying it now, we're putting the price up to stop people smoking. It's like, well, you're making more and more money off of it, but you're not so fast as to kind of put on a complete ban of it.
So here's an observation. When I first quit, no, actually no, not when I first quit. When the sober apps first came in,
Mm.
the one that I've got is I Am Sober, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a thing where you put in how much you were spending,
Mm.
like time and also money. And I think I put in a tenner because I was like, well, we probably get through definitely a bottle a day, sort of if you average it out.
Hmm.
But then also, I don't know, a packet of paracetamol or a burger or junk food or, bag of Monster Munch, whatever. I sort
Yeah.
of thought that's like an associated cost.
Yeah.
So I put in a tenner because it was a nice round figure as well. And I had this sort of moment of clarity a couple of weeks ago when I was looking at prices in the booze aisle. Bottles of wine haven't changed significantly in price in a
Hmm.
decade. And, in context, we've had a cost of living crisis where
Hmm.
a bag of pasta has pretty much doubled in price.
Hmm.
And yet alcohol is still the same price. And I noticed in Tesco's the other day that Bailey's is it 11 quid for a litre? It's on like a special. So it's
Mm.
literally at the minimum pricing point. And people are indirectly being encouraged to consume alcohol because it's still affordable. When
Yeah.
you think about the price increases for everything else that
Hmm.
have been on basics, alcohol doesn't seem to have been sort of included in that. It's still
It's
it's
because
still
they
very
still want
similar.
people to do it. They don't want people
Yeah.
to go, whoa, whoa, hang on. This is getting ridiculous now, the price of it. But
Mm.
I mean, is it not gone up out in pubs? I wouldn't know. But, I think
Yeah, I mean, I think pubs is a different
it's a different thing because
it's a
people are
different
going to
thing.
do it.
Yeah,
And I read this the other day that big alcohol is not, they're not concerned on your kind of weekend drinkers or this, that, and the other. They're not. Their main shareholders or kind of input into their massive gains and profits is people that are problem area drinkers. That is
yeah.
what they rely on. So they're not trying to, put the price up so that your winos or whatever can't afford their frosty jacks or whatever. Do you know what I mean? They're still buying the wine, and even then the whoever the well off businessman that has his whiskey bottle every night and has a few glasses or the entire bottle, that's who they're relying on, and it's why would they want to put the price up for that? Because it is going to kind of alienate the market. Obviously with smoking it had to go up because the government stepped in. Why is the government not stepping in with the alcohol? Because they're making far too much money. Their hands will get forced at some point. Like Canada, I think Germany and Ireland have all started putting like, carcinogen warnings on the bottles and things like that, and it is working. But they just, Britain and England in particular always seems to be last to the kind of table. I remember when the smoking ban came in, it happened in Ireland first, then it was Scotland, and then England. And I was like, "Wait, England's going to be late," and it because I could then still smoke and drink in the pubs. So I wasn't bothered, but it eventually did come in. Yeah,
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 yeah, it takes time. Takes time.
it does.
Hopefully that wave is catching.
Yeah,
But
and I,
yeah, yeah,
that's the thing. I'm not going to say that I want people to. I'd love it if people start waking up and realizing just how bad alcohol is for you, but that's not going to happen overnight. But what I want the government to do is warn people, give people the full faculty of knowledge that this is harmful for you, not even
yeah,
just on a little level, because they'll be like, oh, I don't drink that much. I'm not drinking every day. Doesn't matter. I think the safe amount of alcohol that you can drink, Professor David Nutt did a thing on this, and he said if it was to be done by the health and safety for food, food standards and all that, it wouldn't be allowed in food because of its carcinogenic properties and its poison and, whatever. The safe amount of alcohol that you're allowed to have is one large glass of wine per year. That's the safe amount. And I don't think that's like all at once. That's like over the year. So we're
over the
talking
year. Oh,
minuscule
interesting.
amounts. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm
yeah,
just so glad to be free of it. I really am. And it's
without a
not.
doubt,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And what advice would you give to people that were kind of sober curious or just in the kind of early stages of giving up?
Um, I guess, yeah, to give
Because it was
yourself a
different for you
chance.
back then, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think give yourself a chance. Also, like explore a lot of the non-alcoholic options
Hmm.
that there are,
Hmm.
and maybe see how you feel.
Yeah.
Get friends to get on board. It's really difficult question, that, because I think it has changed a lot since I quit.
Mm,
Um, I mean, definitely there's a lot more support out there, but I think it's about getting really serious
mm,
with what you want your life to look like. Um, because when you're drinking, you don't really think much further than like beyond the next weekend, or
yeah,
everything sort of revolves around it. Maybe to just kind of like consider what things you've got in your life that don't involve alcohol. When you do an inventory like that, that can be quite stark, can't it? Because you're like,
yeah.
actually
It's
not
a
that
massive eye
much.
opener.
Yeah, yeah, and to then start cultivating those alcohol-free areas,
Yeah.
so that they become richer, they become more expansive, and they become more of a kind of foundational pillar in
Hmm.
your life, so that you are then increasingly less reliant on alcohol, or the circle of friends who are attached to that. Because I think when you come to quit, if everything has been alcohol centric, it's really hard to move away with that,
Hmm.
and still have good conversations with people, or connections, or do normal things without feeling kind of weird. So yeah, get like kind of create support for yourself, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
everyone's,
then just keep trying, just keep
yeah,
trying. Don't ever give up
yeah,
on
because it's
yourself.
not, I mean, you did it the first time, really, once you'd made that choice and decided
I
that
did
you were
it.
going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was hard. I'm not saying it
Yeah.
was easy, and I think the reason I did it was because I knew I couldn't give it another go. I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I
Yeah. That's what
wouldn't.
you
I
said.
would. Because back then there wasn't the support. There
You
wasn't
thought
anything.
if I break, that's me back out
Yeah,
there forever. And I
yeah.
get that. And that's the thing, But I think,
But also, that's the result of a very closed mindset as well. Of things will always stay the same, you
yeah,
know. And
yeah,
actually, things don't. Things move on. So if you keep doing the same thing, you're always going to get the same output,
yeah,
you know. So actually, have a think. What if I do things differently? New things will come into my life. It's not about giving up, shutting down. It's about allowing new channels to be diverted.
hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. And I like what you're saying about finding new avenues that don't involve drink, or what avenues you have that don't involve drink, to explore them.
Mm.
Because, if someone had said to me back in the day, I'm sure they probably did, like, what do you do? What are your kind of hobbies and stuff? And I'd be like, being social, because that's literally what. And then eventually it didn't become social; it became like
Yeah.
solo. But yeah,
Yes.
but like
Yeah.
this was my hobby. Like, going out and
Yeah.
drinking was my
Well, my
thing.
CV, my CV said pubbing and clubbing.
Well, I think I was a bit more kind of coy about it and said socializing, but I had other stuff on there, like playing tennis. I don't think I've really played much tennis in my life, but yeah, definitely drinking and doing that. That was my hobby. That was what I did, and that was where I met people. And like we said earlier, like, if there was people that were not big drinkers or whatever, I wouldn't gravitate towards them. So I didn't really know that many non-drinkers when I stopped. Luckily, I was over here and I was making a fresh start, and the only people I then kind of knew, apart from my family, was people that I would meet at the meetings that were all sober, which is why I'm going out with Joe tonight to have a sober pizza. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's so great that there's lots of opportunities for meetups. I had my first meet a sober person when I was 3.5 years sober,
wow,
and yeah, and she's like, my best sober buddy. We're
yeah.
still great friends, and I'm so grateful for that connection, because that then enabled me to go out and meet other people. So I was like, oh, if people don't drink, they'll all be like these weirdos. Oh yeah,
But
weirdos like you, Emma.
because it is deep and meaningful connection that you have. It's
Yeah.
not these, like, drunken behind, in front of the bar things on a Friday and
Mhm.
Saturday night, where you're all just kind of talking absolute rubbish to each other and not really listening to each
Yeah,
other anyway.
and also, like, there's a danger when you're boozing. I say danger. When you're boozing, you often frequently overshare, and then there's like, oh God, why did I say that? And I think that when you have connections with people who don't drink, you go quite deep quite quickly. You get to the nitty gritty stuff, but it's done in a very conscious way. You're aware of it. There's no like, oh God, why did I say that later? You're fully in control,
Yeah,
fully
yeah, yeah.
present, and you're asking the questions and you're communicating. You're interested in exploring those things rather than it being like, oh, cringe. Why did I ask that? That was like really,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And I think going back to way at the beginning when we are saying about how, I'm not a big fan of large crowds of people and, going out to, bars and restaurants and that anymore. Now, I don't think that's because being a non-drinker, I'm boring. I think a lot of people prefer smaller, quieter groups, but
mm,
because they have alcohol to fuel them into these situations, they find it easier and they go to these things and they enjoy it. I couldn't think anything worse than going to a bar tonight. If like Joe and I are
yeah.
going to just a little pizza restaurant, which will be quiet. There'll be people drinking, I'm sure, but it's not going to be like a full on bar where it's like really loud music. And I know I sound like an old fuddy duddy now, but I think take the alcohol out of all those situations, out of everyone's situation, they're going to find it really tough to go out to those things and actually enjoy those things without the alcohol. And I know there's people that can do that, and that's fine, but I think the majority of people would struggle. Yeah,
Well, often it's the alcohol that makes the intolerable situation tolerable,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
you're going to it for the alcohol rather than, oh yeah, I really love blah blah blah,
yeah. You
and
don't. You
yeah,
just
you're
think,
just there to get a couple of drinks and just go, oh yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
it's absolutely mad. But we're just gonna keep banging the drum and see what tune comes out. But
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Emma, have you got any recommendations for podcast, book, film, all to do with recovery? One or all three?
Um, ooh, let's see. So when I first got into podcasts and discovered them,
Hmm.
the one that I used to listen to loads was Love Sober.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's just great. It was like being part of a good conversation around a kitchen table with a big mug of tea. So
Hmm.
yeah, I love Sober. Huge back catalogue of those.
Hmm.
One of the first books that I was given, because there weren't many books when I stopped, was The Outrun by Amy Liptrot. I
Do you
know,
know what? I
it's a
absolutely
fabulous book, isn't it?
well. I watched Jenny and I went to see the film last year. I hadn't read
Yeah,
the book. We went to see
yeah,
the film and we thought I was blown away by how brutally honest it was, the
yeah.
depiction in Saoirse Ronan. And I've reached out to Amy a few times on Instagram, but she's not coming on the podcast yet.
Oh,
She
it's
may come on at
honestly,
some point, but I think she's kind of done with the sobriety world. She's writing books about seaweed now as well, and it's a
yes,
fantastic book. I loved it, absolutely loved
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Read the book, read
yeah.
it.
Oh no, no,
It's
I have. Sorry, I've read the book
oh,
since
you've
I
read it
watched the
since,
film. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
absolutely adored. I do you know what? It's funny watching the film before the book. But I did prefer the book once I'd read it because it was more. I was in her world, and it's almost like a diary the way she's writing it. The film was fantastic as well, but yeah,
Oh, yeah, 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 and just that's rare as well, isn't it? Where a book and a film are both
yeah, yeah,
standalone,
yeah,
fantastic. So yeah,
yeah.
this was one of the first books that I read,
Hmm.
and has it's always a book that I recommend. I absolutely love it. And then another one,
Hmm.
which is also a book and a film, is Wild by Cheryl Strayed,
Yeah,
and that was a film with Reese Witherspoon.
yeah.
And last year I hiked to Machu Picchu, so I kind of revisited this book as well.
Right.
Um, and the whole, I can't remember the name of what she calls her rucksack, but yeah,
Oh,
I really felt
is it
that.
it's something like the brute or
Or the bear or
the bear
something.
or something like that? Because it's
Yeah,
huge. I mean,
yeah,
like, don't get me wrong. Again, the film and the book. I think I watched the film first, but then I read the book. And the book, I think there's so much more in the book than in the film, which is often the way.
yeah,
But I think they go into it in the book more about her struggles and the kind of the addiction that she had and the struggles with her mother and her ex and all that. That's more in depth in the book than in the film. Obviously, they touch on it in the film, but yeah, it's definitely a recovery book. Yeah, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
yeah.
Yeah,
I really love that. I mean, I've got literally bookcases
yeah.
full. I love a book, especially a quick lit book. Just
Oh,
favourite.
this is
Augustin
why I
Burroughs.
started asking people on the
Yeah,
podcast because
yeah.
I put them
So
on my
good.
list and and it's because there's just so many out there now and it's amazing.
Have you read Dry by Augustin Burroughs?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and Running with Scissors. Just
And yeah, I
brilliant.
mean it's
Yeah.
such a good book. What was the other one I read recently? Um I think it was Augustine Burroughs when I read that it sent me on to another one and it's by a girl. She's she was basically a reporter up in Seattle. She was from Texas and she'd moved to Seattle in the kind of late 90s, early noughties. So, that was it. And it just spiraled for her drinking and whatnot. I'll put it in the description once I remember what it's called, but it's
Yeah,
it's a
no,
really
it
good book as
is.
well. It was just one of those. Well, I listened to them on Audible, and then once I'd finished Augustine Burroughs' book, it then led me on to this one, which was fantastic as well. So I love the when you can do that.
Have you read the trio? It's The Liars Club, Cherry, and Lit by I
No,
think Mary. Is it Mary Carney? Mary Carney? I can't remember how you pronounce her surname. They're fabulous as well.
right?
That's like through her life.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well,
brilliant.
Augustine Burroughs has done so many. I mean, I haven't really delved into a lot of his other ones because they're all. I think he goes back and he does one about his dad. Then he does one about his early childhood with his dad because his dad put like a cigarette out on his back or something, and
Yeah,
he'd kind
he
of
has
put that out his
struggled.
mind. But then his mum basically let him move in with this psychiatrist or something that was then abusing him. It
Yeah,
was all
this
very
is running with scissors, isn't it?
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah,
yeah,
but he's done so many, and I think they're all mostly memoirs. But yeah, but funny, dark, and yeah, brutal as well. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, love his books.
yeah.
Rock Bottom, Glorious Rock Bottom, Bryony Gordon. That's
Mhm,
another
mhm,
great book. But because this is going out in January, I've
mhm.
got this one, Wintering by Catherine May. It's
Right.
not it's not it's not a sobriety book, but I feel it's all about winter, funnily
Mhm,
enough, and the
mhm.
cold, and it's divided up into months. And I just think that when you're embarking on your sober journey, no, that's not a favourite phrase of yours, but it's
I don't
like
mind that. I think you're getting me confused with sober Dave. He doesn't like the word journey, but I don't mind the word journey. Yeah, yeah,
but it's like when you're going through something, I
yeah,
think it's quite nice to have something that segments something up, which this book does really well. So for me, when I first stopped drinking, it was in the autumn, and it was like the first time that I started to like autumn. It was like
yeah.
things were falling away, the beautiful colours, but things were falling away, and things were sort of getting stripped back to their sort of really stark forms,
Mhm.
and then sort of winter being like the power of rest and reset, and then spring kind of coming forth. And so for me, that cycle was really, really interesting, really sort of different, because previously I'd always loved spring, start my
Mhm.
birthday,
Mhm.
celebrations, summer, down the pub, yay, beer gardens. And so, and then it had been kind of winter, it's a bit miserable, we'll have to go to the pub, or, yeah. And so it got me to really rethink sort of that sort of structure of nature and the cycle. And I think also, like, as you're going into your sort of evolution with not drinking, over years things change, things shift, and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, this time this year this was happening, and now this is how I feel about this. And I think I've become more kind of in tune with nature and sort of cycles and natural cycles of sort of
Yeah.
ebb and flow. And I think Wintering, there isn't a film yet that I'm aware of, but Wintering is just a really nice book to read if you're wanting to just take a step out of quit lit, but also
Hmm.
have a book that kind of feels supportive about what might be going on for you.
And grounding as well. Yeah.
Yeah, really
Yeah.
grounding.
It
Yeah, and
sounds
it's
really
also,
good. I'm going to put that on my
yeah,
list. Yeah.
because a lot of people get into going out for walks. I know I certainly did, or they get into wild water swimming and things like that. And a lot of that is covered in here, and it's done in a
Yeah.
really, really nice
Well, I
way.
mean,
Yeah.
today was just, it was like a perfect winter day. I mean, I know if you're, it's not until the winter solstice, the 21st of December that winter officially starts. But
Mm.
it's winter now because it's cold. We've had frost. But today was just this beautiful, crisp, sunny day with a bit of frost on the ground. Yeah, it was cold, but I was stripping off half the way through the day because what I'm doing
Yeah.
is heavy working and yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just that's what I love about winter. It's just those crisp mornings where there's leaves in the ground but they're crunchy underfoot, and you're going to finish your day and come home, get the fire on,
Mm.
and have a cup of tea or whatever and just chill
Yeah,
out.
get cozy. And
Yeah,
how nice to enjoy it rather than be hungover, you know?
exactly, without a doubt. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
thank you, Emma. It's been an absolute just an absolute pleasure. Like, I feel like I've known you
Oh,
for years. So
well,
yeah,
yeah, I
well, we
mean,
have
we're
known each other for
connected.
years, but not actually spoken. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's been an absolute privilege getting to know you and listening to your story. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. It's been lovely, lovely chatting. And I always feel that everyone in this community shares so many threads of connection, and it's
Yeah.
so easy to find those once you open up that conversation. So yeah,
Oh,
thank
without a
you.
doubt. Yeah. As I say, we've got so many similarities, and that's what I always say to people is listen for the similarities and not the differences. So, and I'm sure they'll find so many in your story. And yeah, I know it's going to help so many people as well. So yeah. So just keep doing what you're doing, Emma.
Thank you. You too. You
Cheers.
too.
Take care. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.